Hi, I'm David, and welcome to my first review of 2026, probably. As always, I'm testing today's microphone with the same methodology. I have set my peaks to be between -6 and -12 and measured the noise floor, and then I am reading out my usual 20 sentences, each between 1 and 9 words, testing character voices, sibilants, plosives, proximity, etc. The levels are balanced between mics, which has involved some normalization, but that has been done just for audibility. There is no editing, no second takes, just the adjustments to balance noise. So the microphones I'm testing are the NTG5 as the baseline and the DPA 2017 as the microphone in question. So let's have a look at the frequency response of the NTG5. As you can see, it is likely to be more prone to bass rumble than the 2017, but there's also more of a presence boost, which is interesting. I do wonder how they will interact, particularly in comparison to the 2017. The Rode NTG5 has very low self-noise of 10 dBA, and as such, I get a noise floor in my headbox of -66. I have had some experiences with this microphone. It was my favourite for a while, but it never really got a fair shout. And when I got my Sanken CS-M1 review coming soon, but actually the microphone you're hearing me use right now, it sounded a bit of a death knell. Still, of my original favourite microphones, the TLM102 and the MKH416, it had the most similar frequency response, which was no doubt why I liked it. It costs £409 from Wex UK and $489 from Amazon US, although I lucked out and got mine for £200 from Facebook Marketplace, so go me. Of course, you're here to find out about the microphone I'm actually reviewing, and that is the DPA 2017, the newer and littler brother, although bigger, of the DPA 4017 A, B, and C. So again, let's have a look at the frequency response. So in many ways, this should be clearer on my voice, but it does risk sounding a bit less forward than the NTG5 because of the lack of the presence boost. And historically, I've disliked overly flat microphones. For example, the MKH 8050, I briefly loved, but kind of grew to hate because of its flat response being what makes it great for certain things, but not great for me. It is interestingly wildly similar to the mini CMIT in frequency response, and a review of that's coming late January or early February. Let me show you a picture of that. That is, of course, why the thumbnail for this video shows the blue paint, because in many ways the DPA 2017 is what you can get if you can't afford a mini CMIT but want a similar frequency response. The DPA 2017 has higher self-noise than the NTG5 of 13 dBA, but it got me a noise floor that was lower, -68, which is very impressive and suggests to me that it must have a tighter polar pattern than the NTG5, at least in the ways it's interacting with my voice. Or, on the other hand, because I recorded on different days, it's got nothing to do with that, and it's just environmental. Who knows? My experiences with this microphone are minimal. I bought it and had to return it after a few days because it was showing signs of a potentially limited lifespan capsule, kind of the whooshing sound when turning on phantom power. So I decided it was too high risk to keep that particular one, and I decided not to replace it, partly because I ended up getting a 401C. 401C? That's something else entirely. A 4017C instead. In terms of price, it is £829 from Wex in the UK and $1,095 from Amazon in the US. Please note, all links I have mentioned are in the description, and they are affiliate links. If you do want one of these microphones, go ahead and buy using an affiliate link, please. It does give me some pennies. So, as always, let's have a listen to my 20 sentences, directly head-to-heading these two microphones.
Cue dramatic music. Cue dramatic music. Or don't, we're not your mom. Or don't, we're not your mom. Crunchazoids. Crunchazoids. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Now, imagine the perfect espresso. Precision is not an option. Precision is not an option. Talk to someone who gets it. Talk to someone who gets it.
I don't think we should go in there. I don't think we should go in there.
I brought you a spoon. I brought you a spoon. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. Oh, it's a lovely day to be a me. I'm the best magical dog. I'm the best magical dog. All are safe under my protection. All are safe under my protection.
Roll up, roll up, roll up, roll up. You just got mud on my shoes. You just got mud on my shoes.
I was never in the shadows. I was never in the shadows. Client said it'd be easy. Client said it'd be easy.
I'm going to count down from 3 and then... I'm going to count down from 3 and then...
Kill them all. Kill them all. She sells seashells by the seashore. She sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. They're right behind you. They're right behind you.
Now, if you've seen any of my reviews before, I like to also look at how the microphones sound when they have been processed for audiobook work. And for that, I always use the first paragraph of Winnie the Pooh. Let's have a listen to that.
Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh. Here is Edward Bear, coming downstairs now, bump, 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 on the back of his head, behind Christopher Robin. It is, as far as he knows, the only way of coming downstairs, but sometimes he feels that there really is another way if only he could stop bumping for a moment and think of it. And then he feels that perhaps there isn't. Anyhow, here he is at the bottom and ready to be introduced to you. Winnie the Pooh.
So what are my conclusions? Well, I do have opinions about the DPA 2017. Probably good. I don't know why you'd be here if I didn't. Kind of a mixed but long list of what I liked and what I didn't. So on the one hand, I like that it's less coloured and more clear and transparent than the NTG5. I mean, it sounds so clear and crisp and transparent. On the other hand, one of the things that I don't like is that it is less coloured and more clear and transparent than the NTG5, which makes it a bit less interesting than the latter. You can really see both sides of this with the increased clarity on the 2017, but the less interestingness on all are safe under my protection. Let's have a listen.
All are safe under my protection. All are safe under my protection.
The 2017 is undoubtedly nicer on the higher pitched end of things, such as with, I'm going to count down from 3 and then. Let's have a listen to that.
I'm going to count down from 3 and then... I'm going to count down from 3 and then...
And I also think that it has better transient detection, transient pickup, I'm not entirely... Transient response, I think is the right phrase. It sounds a little punchier, and it's especially noticeable on the Winnie the Pooh recordings. And honestly, I think it is nicer than the NTG5 on the Winnie the Pooh example. Unless you're reading my notes, of course, in which case it is ricer rather than nicer, because apparently I can't spell. I also like that it is 19mm shorter than the NTG5. You know, part of the reason why the Sanken CSM1 has become one of my go-to mics, and why the MKH8060, also a review coming soon, has also become one of my go-to mics when used with an MZL cable, is because of the relatively short length. And that was also why I never really got on that well with the MKH416. I loved the sound, I hated the length. So yes, I do like the fact that the 2017 is almost 2 centimeters shorter than the NTG5. Weirdly, despite it having more of a low cut than the NTG5, it did seem to capture more bass resonance, and that is a bit odd. And, you know, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the higher self noise is frustrating if you're doing something very low gain, such as ASMR kind of recordings, whispering. Although, given that it still has a lower noise floor when recording at the same levels, you know, it's really hard to say how that would work in effect. And as I said, I returned the mic. Unfortunately, I cannot do an extra recording to really test that out. So that's it for my conclusions. Coming up in the next video is the first in a series of videos that I recorded all on the same day, because I rented a batch of 4 microphones. And one of those microphones I rented purely for the hell of it, because I was intrigued by how small it is. And that's the ambient tiny mic, coming up in my next video. I'll see you next time.